It's totally fine. I have a lot more stories.
That you do.
Yeah.
That you do.
Guilty as charged with the stories.
Hello, everyone. Hey, welcome once again to another edition of I've Got Something to Say. This is the podcast where I tell stories and you listen to them. This week's episode is titled The Best Is Yet to Come. So, Paul, I'm going to ask you to participate here up front, all right?
Okay.
I'm going to read you some historical / pop cultural references, and I want to see if you can guess what year these all happened in.
I'll do my best.
Okay. Gold reaches $200 per ounce. Roman Polanski flees to France. The first test tube baby is born. Cult leader Jim Jones tells 900 members of his church to commit suicide in Guyana. The Susan B. Anthony dollar is minted. Following on from the oil crisis, Japanese car imports account for half of the U.S. import market. The first ever cellular mobile phone is introduced in Illinois. Sweden is the first country in the world to recognize the effect of aerosol sprays on the ozone layer. The serial killer David Berkowitz, a.k.a. Son of Sam, is convicted of murder after terrorizing New York for 12 months. It's also a great year for movies, with Grease opening on June 16th, Saturday Night Fever and Close Encounters of the Third Kind all showing in movie theaters around the world.
If I don't get this correct, I know I'll get it very close.
Okay.
I'm going to say 1978.
Ding, 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 ding. Oh, you got your own sound
Is that
effects.
correct?
I forget. Yeah, that's right on.
Yay.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah.
So you know what else happened in 1978? I was in fourth grade. Do you know what happens in fourth grade?
Missouri history.
Oh, that does happen, but that's
Right.
not what this story is about.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember we did our field trip to Jeff City and just really had a good time. Oh, I don't know if it still happens this way, but back in 1978, in fourth grade, was when you went to your first sexual education class. Do you remember doing that? Did you do that in fourth grade?
I don't remember that at all.
Okay, so
I'm looking forward to my class.
it's a good one. Let me tell you. Yeah, we were going to have our first sex ed, and the way it went, at least at Blackburn Elementary, was you had a class in fourth grade, a class in fifth grade, and a class in sixth grade. And there was a lot of excitement and anticipation building up to this sex ed class. And the older kids had told us, hey, I mean, they're pretty elementary now in fourth grade and fifth grade, but in sixth grade, you actually get to see somebody doing it. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I went through the sixth grade class and you did not get to watch somebody doing it. So that didn't happen. But meanwhile, back in fourth grade, sex ed was coming up, and my mom happened to be the PTA president at the time. So she knew everything that was going on at the school. So she had told me, hey, you know, sex ed is coming up. And I'm like, ugh, I didn't think our parents were supposed to know that. And I was uncomfortable with my mom telling me about it. And so she wanted me to watch this ABC after school special that was about sex education, basically. So I watched it, and the only thing I really remember was like this naked cartoon woman, but with no like distinguishing characteristics. So it was, you know, definitely PG. And she had a zipper on her stomach and unzipped it, and then the top half of her body went back and they took a baby out. So I don't know how effective this after-school special was for sex ed, but I did feel like whatever I learned from that gave me a little bit of a leg up when we went into the sexual education class. So the day finally came and we got to go in. It was all female teachers at Blackburn Elementary at the time. So it was our principal who, because he was male, that taught the boys sex ed because they split us up. So we went in and we watched like a film strip, and, you know, it was basic stuff. Hey, your body's going to change. You're going to grow hair in places where you don't have hair, and your voice is going to get deep, and you're going to need to start wearing deodorant and all that sort of stuff. And then we like took a little quiz, and then he just opened it up to questions, and it was sort of a back and forth. And I remember hearing these other kids asking questions like, man, I want to ask something. And he had asked us in the kind of like a quiz to us. He said, hey, so where are the testicles located? And I remember this kid that I really liked. He was a cool guy. His name was David Osmus. And he raised his hand and said, the testicles are between your penises. And everybody in the class laughed. And from that day forward, he became the between the penises guy. And he just never lost the rep. But I remember when he asked the question and when he answered the question, he was humiliated. You could see he was visibly embarrassed, turning red, putting his head down. Everybody having a good guffaw at the between the penises comment. So I thought, okay, I'm going to ask something to get the spotlight off of David. Plus, I'm curious, too. So I raised my hand, and I said, hey, Mr. Grubb, so you said that when a man has sex with a woman, he goes until he finishes, and then you stop. But, how do you know when you're finished? And I thought it was a very good question. So I ask it. Mr. Grubb just looks at me, and of course, all the heads in the classroom turn around to look at me too. Long silent pause, and he just said, "Oh, you'll know." And I thought this was a horrible answer because what if I don't know? What if something happens but I miss it? I'm thinking about comic books at the time. Whatever it is happens, and I'm still continuing when I shouldn't be continuing. So I was really kind of miffed at the answer that he gave me. So I went home and I told my mom, I'm like, yeah, I asked Mr. Grubb this question and he didn't answer it. And I feel like I was slighted. And she's like, Chris, why would you ask him that question? Don't you know you can talk to us at home if you have questions? So I'm like, well, I know I can, but David Osmus had done the whole between the penises thing, and I wanted to jump in and help him out. But the funny thing was, she didn't tell me how I would know when I was finished either. So it was one of those mysteries to me for a few years. But really, all it took was waiting a few years, a little patience on my part, in the lingerie section of the JCPenney catalog for me to realize that, yes, Mr. Grubb was correct. When the time comes, you do know when you're finished. And that's it for this episode of I've Got Something to Say. I'm Chris Whiting. Thank you so much, as always, for listening. Again, huge thanks to our friends at KCTK Radio for making this podcast happen. If it weren't for Paul and the good folks here, you wouldn't be hearing this story right now. I will talk to you next week, everyone. Bye.